you haven't really played with color. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of little options for you, little tips and tricks. And the very first one is to adjust the color. For instance, we might like our lines to be the same color as our data points. And if we look over here, we see that our data points are green, but our line is orange. I'm going to change the line to being green as well for that fit. I do that by going over here and clicking and holding, and we get the little options. We can say green, and it instantly turns green, which is nice. We could also, by the way, say dashed if there's a reason for that. There's no particularly strong reason for us to do that here, so I'm going to turn it back to solid. But sometimes if your graph starts getting cluttered, or if one of them is a model and the other is data, you might want to put in dash just to distinguish it. Likewise, we go down here and we see that we have purple and blue, and while those aren't terrible, I think we'll make this line also blue so that our data now looks the same color as our fit lines and are easier to identify. One of the sadnesses is that Desmos does not yet let you actually label lines or data points, so there's no way of saying here, oh, this is, you know, my first cart and this is the one that is my second cart, although there is a little bit of a trick that we can do for that as well. We can add a folder, and I'm going to call that folder cart 1, and now I can go down and actually drag this stuff into the folder. See how now it's got that, it's inside the folder with that little line, and likewise I'm going to drag that, and now I can close the folder, and at least it's not occupying lots of room on my screen. I can do the same thing for cart 2 and drag this guy in and drag this guy in. There's no analytic reason for that, there's no advantage, it just makes things a little cleaner. It also means I can kind of turn it on and turn it off together, which is nice. So if I just want cart 2, I shut off cart 1. And I shut it off by clicking this little circle, or I can click it and put it back on. The folder icon says there's lots of stuff in here. Likewise, we can also always go along and just say don't draw something. So if I want to hide the fit for a moment, I can click that and hide the fit, and I click it again to show, no big deal. In the fit, I have some other little display options. So if I click and hold this, I can change the style, I can change the color, of course, and I can also make it draggable. I strongly recommend that you never change the draggability because it will move your data point, which you should not do. You also can do things like connect the lines or connect the lines and show dots, but you shouldn't do that either because statistically there's basically never a reason why the connected lines are meaningful. So you should always just be on the basics, straight dots. Oops. Let's hide that for a second. You can see your whole graph by hiding the list, and it'll take up a little bit more room on your screen so you can see everything. That can be useful if you want to actually do some data analysis there, and then you click this to bring it back. If you are having trouble reading this, or especially if you're going to print it out and it's coming out too thin on your printer, you might want to go to settings and do projector mode. That makes everything just a little bit thicker, a little bit less maybe eye-pleasing, but definitely a lot easier to read. And if you don't like that, you can shut it off. There's no particular reason why it's useful to do this, but if you wanted to just show your relations and not have it as like a data chart people can check, you can turn off the background grid or turn it back on. You can also do a radian grid, but that doesn't really have any purpose here, so there'd be no reason to do that. Instead, we'll just go back to this. One last trick, I'm gonna destroy folder 2 for a second. So let's get rid of this and bring back the plots. Another little trick that you can do is if you have your data already in tabular form, if you cut and paste out of a different program, so for instance I have off screen, you can't see it, an Excel sheet that had the cart 2 stuff in it, if I copy that to the clipboard and then come back here and paste it, it makes a data table automatically, which is kind of cool. And you don't have to do anything with it. It is really important that when you're doing these relations that you pick same variables so that x2 corresponds with x2 in the column header and t2 corresponds with t2 in the column header, and most importantly that you're not using x1 or t1 in this, or we'll try and fit to that data list, and that will not be correct. Now you can do a file print from your browser, whatever it is, and that will give you a printout. Desmos seems to be smart enough to put the graph on one page and all the other stuff, the equation list and so on a separate page. and that's perfectly fine. But usually I won't be interested in getting from you the data or the equation lists, so you might want to do something differently. For instance, oh, there's our print. You can instead share the graph, and you get a bunch of options. This link will bring people to this graph, although it will be live, and you have to think about that. So they'll get a copy of it, but they'll be able to play with it on their own, which is kind of useful. You can also send an email. You can get some embed code, so you can put it on a web page if you wanted to show off on, say, Facebook about your wonderful graph. But most importantly for us, you can probably hit image, and then you get a different window that gives you a nice clean version of your graph as an image. And then you can do a bunch of things. You can print it, or you can click on it to download it, or you can use this URL to share it directly, and now it would not be an adjustable graph, it would only be that image. Or probably most usefully for our viewpoint, you could actually right click on it and copy this image over into, for instance, a Word file or a Pages file, and then have it stored for all humanity at that point, and then you could print or email that file. That would also let you put things like your name on it and some other details to put around it if there's some text you want to surround the thing with. So that's pretty much all the really important things that you can do with Desmos. We'll come back to this. For instance, you can do different kinds of fits, and that will be useful. We don't have to make it linear. And there'll be some other little analysis tricks we can do. But basically, this is a nice way of just quickly getting your data into a printable, graphable form. So I hope that was useful to you.